Chapter 12. One of these days I'm going to tell you I told you so. Mr. Young turned to me while pouring a soda into a cup of ice. What do you mean by that? I asked with a little sarcasm in my voice. I rolled my eyes slightly. Well, for starters, I see you out there with Adam and them assholes. Mark my words, the last thing you need to do is get involved with them there degenerates. I just met those guys today. You must not remember when I pointed them guys out to you, he says. He continues without letting me answer him. Don't get in that damn car if you ever want to make it off this mountain alive. If you don't listen to me, one of these days, I'm going to tell you I told you so. My feelings tell me that Mr. Young is likely correct in his analysis, as well as his advice. A scolding from him is how my first night at Big Sandy started. Tonight is another night where his early-to-bed rule is out the window. It is clear that he despises Adam, along with the rest of the car. He tells me that they all just came to Big Sandy from a prison in Texas, and that Stevie, Adam, and the rest of the crew think they are tough. If they think they are going to run this prison, Chad, they are sadly mistaken. Why do you despise them so much? Well, for starters, they weren't here for a week before that Dennis and his buddy Ronnie beat up my old cellmate. What did they do that for? I asked with intent curiosity. For no goddamn reason, he says with anger in his voice. He sat in a seat he has been sitting in inside the mess hall that they came here and claimed. They think they own those seats now. Them seats belong to Obama and Eric Holder, not the Boston, New York damn East Coast car, or whoever they claim to be. I smile pondering his statement about Eric Holder. Since he is the Attorney General, maybe he owns the seats after all. He is in charge of the Justice Department and the federal prison system. If Mr. Young told the car that Eric Holder owned those seats, they would likely beat him up as well. More than half the guys in the car probably do not even know who Eric Holder is in the first place. But Mr. Young has no real power or say-so. They would kick his ass, old or not, if he expressed his opinion to anyone in the car. Let me tell you this, young man. I have seen guys just like them a lot in this here prison. They don't last long. Those boys will be in more shit than Planters Got Peanuts. This was the last thing I wanted to hear given my recent decision to join the car. I am deeply bothered by the fact that I pledged my allegiance to this car. With everything Mr. Young has told me, I cannot possibly tell him what I did. If I did, he would surely go off like a runaway train. Keeping this to myself seems like the better option. I feel like a small child when the child knows he has done something wrong. Anxiety, confusion, and stupidity mix. As Mr. Young talks, it feels like I am being scolded by my father, and I'm trying to hide the shame of a bad choice. God only knows what I have gotten myself into. Jumping in head first was a mistake on my part, and deep inside, I know it. As I drift off to sleep, I find myself anticipating my future here at Big Sandy and wondering whether Mr. Young is going to tell me he told me so. The morning arrives with the sun bouncing brightly off the window, illuminating the cell. Mr. Young rolls out of bed. I lay there silently making excuses to myself, contemplating the many bad decisions I've made over the course of my young life. Joining this car triggered regrets. Feeling sorry for myself will accomplish nothing. I shake the thoughts from my conscious mind and slide out of bed to begin my day. At breakfast, I find myself with my newly acquainted car members. Reality sets in quickly. Most of these men are living in a fantasy land. It is apparent we are all caught in some phony prison movie where the script is already written. I ponder that thought. There is a fake bravado of being a tough guy. Many men pretend to be something they are not. It becomes obvious that many prisoners are faking it to make it. Behind these walls, hardened men seem to create their own problems, to make trouble with other prisoners over things that would be trivial in society. It seems absurd that a person would want to create a hostile environment for themselves, an environment riddled with violence, but that is what happens on this side of the razor wire. There are men here who are truly barbaric, hateful, and cold-hearted, but many of the guys are simply pretending. In order to survive, you have to play the prison game the way it exists, a game in which the rules change daily. Joining the car was the first move in the prison game for me. When Dennis was recruiting me, he told me my next move had to be my best move. Because I was a younger white guy from New York, there really was no choice. Had I refused the offer, they would have sent missiles to attack me. This is something I would later learn. There is no choice with the East Coast car. The only way you leave is as a victim of violence. In convict code, this is called beating someone off the yard. Once a group of prisoners assault a prisoner, that prisoner is no longer safe in population. The Bureau of Prisons will then transfer that prisoner to another prison to start anew. At breakfast, I meet a guy named Ace. He is the shot caller for the Ohio White Independent car. Ace and his comrades have an alliance with our car. Like Stevie, he has a hatred for white gang members. Arrogance rolls off him as he tells me his story. For Ace, his future holds nothing but this crazy world. He was in his 20s when he was sentenced to over 200 years for robbing banks. His future holds nothing but anguish and despair. You can almost see it in his eyes when he speaks. For him, the free world was like the Titanic, sunk on that cold night. Like Stevie, he latches onto the car. It's all he has left. Having the keys to the Ohio car is his safe haven. That safe haven does not last long for Ace at Big Sandy. Months later, members of his own car find him to have committed one of the ultimate prison sins. Some time ago, Ace was put in the Special Housing Unit, SHU, pronounced SHU, for assaulting another prisoner. While in the SHU, he accepted a black prisoner from Ohio as his cellmate. Once Ace served his time in the SHU, he was returned to general population. A plot has been put into place to beat him off the yard. The yard seems still. Most people know what is going to happen, or at least they thought they knew. 2 young white convicts from Ohio are stalking Ace. A tall white kid named Slim, the other a stocky blonde with tattoos on his face. Ace has his back to the 2 villains and is engaged in a heated verbal dispute with another Ohio prisoner. Slim sneaks up behind him and swings for the fences. Slim's first punch crunches with the impact, landing to the side of Ace's face. Tattoo Face begins to swing wild, glancing blows as Ace ducks, dodges, and pulls a prison shank from his waist. Tattoo Face sees the knife and bolts from the scene, leaving Slim to his demise. Ace is stabbing Slim. The 2 bodies lock up and fall to the ground. Slim is on the bottom, his hands flailing as Ace mounts him. The sirens blare out. The loudspeaker instructs everyone to get on the ground. A warning shot reverberates off the concrete walls as Ace slashes downward with his sharpened bone crusher. Another warning shot does not deter the onslaught of violence. Slim fights for his life. The correctional officer in the gun tower sets his sights at center mass. Once his target is set, he pulls the trigger, sending the bullet from an AR-15 assault rifle into Ace's body. Immediate impact. Ace topples over the lanyard, holding his shank in place. Slim scrambles to his feet, sucking in air. He darts from the area where he almost lost his life. Confusion engulfs the yard as panic sets in among both staff and convicts. Seeing Ace shot radiates the reality that losing your life is a real possibility. It is not going to always be warning shots. Staff members are coming from everywhere. Medical personnel with red medical bags rush to Ace and roll him over onto his back. One nurse seems to be brushing dirt off what looks like his intestines seeped out of the gaping hole in his stomach. Ace is staring into the sky as if he sees Satan's angels coming to take him to purgatory. The nurse is pushing his intestines back into his body. It is too late for Ace. His blood will forever be left on the razor wire here at Big Sandy. Another inmate met his maker on the prison yard. Violence has claimed Ace's life. His car, the car that he held onto so dearly, was his demise in the end. His 200-year sentence began and ended behind these gloomy concrete walls. Ace is loaded on a stretcher. The wind dances through the razor wire. 19% of all male inmates in the U.S. prisons say they have been physically assaulted by another inmate. Big Sandy is known for housing some high-profile inmates. The prison houses a significant portion of the people convicted of crimes in the Washington, D.C. area. The National Capital Revitalization Self-Government Improvement Act of 1997 gave the Federal Bureau of Prisons custody of sentenced D.C. felons. About 33% of the inmates here at Big Sandy have been convicted of D.C. crimes. The D.C. car is the biggest car at the prison. When a car has numbers, they wield the power on this side of the razor wire. While many men here are pretending, some have learned to become violent. Others are simply brutal. October and November seem to be the months when Satan hovers over the prison. In October 2006, 33-year-old Terrell Johnson, serving a sentence for armed bank robbery, stabbed fellow prisoner Kelvin Spite in the neck with a bone crusher. Spite, like Ace, met his maker in Inez, Kentucky. 2 years later, Johnson pleaded guilty to a charge of second-degree murder and was sentenced to a further 26 years in prison. 14 years less than my 40-year term for a nonviolent drug crime. When I hear Johnson's sentence come across my radio, I simply shake my head. Less than a month after Spite's murder, Shimoni Peterson met his end after a brutal beating by Daryl Milburn and Dwayne Gravely. Milburn, Gravely, and Daron Crawford were all living in a shoe cell designed for 2. On November 12, 2006, a corrections officer asked if they would accept a 4th cellmate. That fourth man was Shimoni Peterson. Gravely, a senior member of the Bloods in Milburn, decided to accept Peterson as a cellmate, but for only one reason. They wanted blood. Gravely believed Peterson had snitched on the Bloods, and snitching comes with severe consequences. Soon after Peterson entered the cell, Milburn put a t-shirt over his mouth and suffocated him while Gravely beat him. Peterson was found dead the next morning. The trio kept the dead body in the cell with them all night while they plotted how to explain his death. Violence is expected here by both staff and inmates. On November 4, 2007, extreme violence erupted again when Eric Emard repeatedly stabbed his cellmate in the neck with a prison-made knife. After the assault, Emard told staff that he had intended to kill his cellmate. His cellmate required surgery and hospitalization. Emard's streak of violence did not end with the stabbing of his cellmate. That was just the beginning. While he was being prepared for transportation to a federal court to answer for the stabbing, he stabbed 2 correctional officers with a sharp weapon he fashioned from plexiglass. Prisoner Stephen Michael Reed, angry at his unit manager, decided to throw scalding hot water in his face. The unit manager ran out of the unit with first and second degree burns to his face, neck, and chest. Reed's transgressions came with an additional 20-year sentence from a federal judge in Kentucky. October 21, 2008. Another federal prisoner from the New York area stabbed a prison guard over 10 times in the head, back, and arm with a prison-made weapon. In November 2008, Big Sandy prisoner Aaron Pike was stabbed by white gang members over 30 times. Pike was stabbed in the face, hands, and back. When the carnage had come to an end, both hands were broken, both lungs were punctured, and Pike was mercy flighted, fighting for his life. Miraculously, doctors were able to save him. Death is a constant at Big Sandy. 2009 was rung in with the murder of Vincent Earl Smith Jr., a D.C. prisoner. John Travis Milner, who had been recently transferred to Big Sandy from USP Lee in Virginia for stabbing another prisoner, decided to stab his cellmate with a prison-made ice pick before strangling Smith Jr. to death. Milner was at Big Sandy serving a life sentence for killing 68-year-old church trustee Walter Coates in a random shooting. Seeking the death penalty for prison killings is a rarity, but in 2013, the Justice Department was weighing whether to seek his execution. J.M. Steps Eden was being transferred into humanity's hell, day after day, year after year. The violence, the death, the fear will never end until Big Sandy ceases to exist. With each assault, every murder, I know my life is on the line. I stare at the sun sparkling off the razor wire, wondering if my blood too will be left here. Only time will tell. Chapter 13. Smoking weed in bamboo, sipping on private stock. Way back, when I had the red and black lumberjack with the hat to match. Remember, rapping Duke? Doo-ha, doo-ha. You never thought that hip-hop would take it this far. Now I'm in the limelight, 'cause I rhyme tight. Time to get paid, blow up like the world trade. Born sinner, the opposite of a winner. Remember when I used to eat sardines for dinner? Peace to Ron G, Brucey B, Kid Capri, Funkmaster Flex, Love Bug, Star Ski. I'm blowing up like you thought I would. Call the crib, same number, same hood. It's all good. And if you don't know, now you know, nigga. You know very well who you are. Your father's a vicious crackhead, Booper ragged as we sat at his grandmother's table bagging up the first ounce of cocaine we ever bought. Juicy was playing on the floor model. Fuck you, your mother's a crackhead too, I replied. We both laugh in our ignorance. My heart flutters from the nervousness and excitement that comes with bagging up cocaine. I sit at the front table so I can see the front door in case someone tries to come in and take our hard-earned product. Within days, we went from a fake product to a real ounce of cocaine. Half for Booper, half for me. 2 glass plates sat in front of us. We took the razor blades to the shiny rocks. As I chopped the rocks into smaller dosages, I thought about all the money I wanted to make. The new starter jacket I would buy, and the matching pair of brand new Bo Jacksons. Money would help me escape my loneliness. It would help me buy the happiness I desired. The possibility that I could lose my life over $10 bags of cocaine was never even considered. Losing my drugs was impossible. I was starting my rise to the top. In my stupidity, I never even thought that prison was possible. I was too smart to get caught, or so I thought. Once our product was packaged, we headed out to a corner where there was a house that people were selling their own drugs from. Me and Booper had been out there stealing their customers for days. When one of the addicts would pull up, we would call them before they went to the door. Most of them would come to us, but some of the loyalists went to the door. It was not long before one of the loyalists told the guy on the other side of the door what we were doing. That's when Cooley came out of the door with a pistol in his hand. "You bitch-ass motherfuckers stealing my customers?" he yelled as he fired a shot in the air. We ran through the snow, hopping fences, racing back to the safe confines of Booper's grandmother's house and the floor model. Sitting in front of the floor model, we contemplated our next move. I knew I wanted that starter jacket and new Nikes, but now the plans had to change. If we were to continue in this business, I knew we both needed a gun. "We need pistols, Booper. That's what we need. 2 burners, man." "Yeah, we ain't letting his bitch ass run us off. Those are our customers now," Booper replied. The street hustling life was taking off, full throttle. For the meantime, we are going to sell cocaine to Booper's uncle's customers. Don't let him hold you down. Reach for the stars. You had a goal, but not that many, 'cause you the only one. I fell asleep on Booper's couch, smiling, dreaming about reaching the stars like Biggie said.